places my body hadn't sold. Many miles away, I could start a perfect story. I found myself and find out glory. This deceptive world, giving me the sign, giving me the sign. Giving me the sign, giving me the sign.
Welcome everyone to the Sci-Fi Queens podcast, where we explore the female characters in science fiction television shows, movies, books, games, art, and anywhere female characters of sci-fi are depicted. If you're new to our channel, we welcome you. We ask to hit that subscribe and notification bell so you know when our next episodes will be on, and it'll also help our channel grow. If you want to support our channel, please do so by going to our merch store. The link is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the description. And check out our new merch that we have going on. My name is Nita. I'm your host. And tonight, I have my co-host, Sarah, the Queen of Darkness.
Hello.
How are you doing, Sarah?
I am doing pretty good. The weather's been nice.
Yes.
I think we're getting the remnants of the hurricane because it's been real windy and breezy all day, but they told us we weren't going to get any water. So
that's good. Yes, it has been particularly nice, the weather lately, which is good.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And how are you?
I'm doing good. Can't complain too much, but no one ever listens, so it's all good anyway.
All right.
So today we're going to talk about the TV series Snowpiercer. Some of you have seen the movie. I have. I thought it was a fantastic movie. And when they made it into a TV series, I thought that was even better. And I'll be honest, I was not sure how much of the TV show was going to be depicted how much of the movie was going to be depicted in the TV show. But the TV show changed it up, the characters a little bit. The characters are more inclusive, more diverse, and definitely have a lot of strong female characters. And we're going to talk about a few of them tonight. Now, the TV series has 2 more episodes left. You can watch it on AMC. And we have 2 more episodes for the series to end completely. So we're going to talk generally about the show, but more so about the characters and the women that make up this dystopian
all-star cast. I like it.
Oh, absolutely. So let's get right into it. And let's start with Jennifer Connelly as Melanie Cavill. Talk to me. How do you like her character?
I did not like her at first. And I mean, I really like season 1, like, God, what a bitch. But like, I mean, I honestly, you know, that's what we're here to do is honesty. I mean, she was not a nice person. And then, you know, when you find out the big bad secret, it's just like, oh, she's a schemer. Like, what?
Oh yeah.
But I think further on, and the longer that we go, that she really truly is dedicated to the survival of all people, not just the people on the train. That, you know, and making a future, and that the future isn't on the train. You know, that she wants, you know, she wants a better world for her daughter. You know, that she sacrificed. You know, she left without her daughter. That was kind of sad. But then later,
I think her daughter and her mom and her parents were supposed to meet up with her.
Yeah,
they ended up in the wrong train, because we later find out that there were 2 trains, not 1.
Yeah, right. But it's still a little weird how that, like,
I would have left with her. Like, I would have brought her.
Because Alex says they didn't want to leave. They wanted me to go to you, but I didn't want to leave them. So it was the whole conflict. And then that's still a little, you know, a gray area. Like, how does she end up on the train like I think Wilford came for her, but like I don't know. I'm still that's still hazy for me. I don't really understand that.
Agreed.
But Melanie, I like that she kind of is. I mean, she's still kind of a bitch, but she's really. I mean, she's really dedicated to the science and survival, and it's not just kind of playing like she's Oz and the Puppet Master. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
the great and powerful Oz. Let's pull back the curtain.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, don't look, don't acknowledge that man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, when it like, oh, hey, oh,
But it's interesting
hmm,
that you mentioned the Oz and the puppet behind the curtain, because in the very beginning, she was playing a really dangerous role,
right,
where she was telling people that Mr. Wolford was sending messages and he's just very busy. And,
yeah,
I had a hard time understanding how could those people actually choose to believe that, because after a while you're like, yeah, we need to see this man. I mean, how he disappeared in a train where you can't hide from anyone. How is that even possible?
because
um
they the way she did it, she said that he was bio locked in the engine so that the engine would only run for him or something like that. I,
yeah,
but then like
it
so
just seemed
well and then
weird that they just believe this story.
well they want to believe what they want to believe and then it's like
Yeah.
I also remember the in the movie because I just watched that again last weekend I think in
Yes.
prep for this that he really was like sealed in the engine and
Yeah.
like he had go betweens coming in and out but like he really he he didn't leave the engine on that train so it's like
Yeah. So
what
it's
the
possible to
yeah
believe that
yeah
story, right? Yeah, I mean, I
yeah
have to say that I thought she was so efficient and so serious, and she didn't care about the tailies or anybody else. It was all about the train. um and that uniform, it kills me. Oh, how awful. But she played the
yeah
part really well, because she convinced hardcore dedicated individuals that she was this person. And when
yeah
it came out, I felt like it was such a disappointment to the people who believed in her. Um,
yes
and talking about dedication, um,
Ruth
Ruth Warden, played by
yeah
Alison Wright, she
yes
was hardcore believer
and Mr.
and
Wilford
hard,
yes
yeah, Mr. Wilfred, and hardcore dedicated to that belief that he was there, sealed in. I mean,
right
she truly believed in her, and her character arc really was amazing. Talk to me about
right
about her in the beginning and her now that we have two episodes left.
well it's like to me she was a hardcore believer she was Mr. Wilford's girl I mean not as much as Audrey but she was you
Ooh,
know she was Mr. Wilford's girl she was a diehard dedicated to him he came to and stated her in or whatever it was I think it was when
yeah,
she first met him that he was a weary traveler on the side of the road and needed help and she helped him and that's why he because she provided such good hospitality that's why he made created hospitality and decided that this was what she needed to do but then and even throughout the first and second season it's the revolution happens and then you know season two she's starting to that facade is starting to crack
yeah,
like because she's starting to like okay well Wilford's not healed oh and then he's back but then like but who is he really and
yeah,
that's where where she's at is that coming to the realization that this ideal that she's had in her mind of who he is isn't the fucking psycho that he is.
yeah.
Because I mean, he is nuts. Like
He is
he should be
disturbed.
he
He is
should be locked
very
up.
disturbed.
He making people do things that they no, and like he really should be like I don't think if the world was whole, he would have been that eccentric billionaire. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's who he
Absolutely.
was, and that and like and Andre actually says to him, Leighton says to him, "You're just a crazy man playing with your trains." And
And that's
they all need.
exactly what he
eh,
projects.
Yeah, and he says he's just a crazy white man playing with his train. He actually said that to him because I watched an episode tonight or today. I was letting it play, letting it run just in the background, and he says that to him when Wilfred comes to the train to fix the train when it's when we almost lose Snowpiercer, and Wilfred comes to the train and then it's all theater and all this, and he tells him straight up,
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
just a crazy white man playing with your trains. And
Yeah.
it's all about the show, it's all about the theatrics. It's not about the people, it's not about saving the people. It's all about control and power, and it's not about the science like Melanie is. At least Melanie was in it for the science, and she had a purpose. But like, what the hell is Wilford doing? He's just
I
nuts.
think with him, and we're going to talk about him later, so we can definitely
Okay,
go
yeah.
into Wilfred
Yeah,
later.
anyways, but
Um,
anyways, Ruth
mhm.
to me is, she with her arc, she, it's that whole coming to the realization that the man, the myth, the legend is not the ideal that she thought he was. And then,
Absolutely.
and they tell her, you're gonna have to pick a side. And then, she's like, I'm always with the train. And then she realizes that maybe Wilfred isn't what's best for the train. And
Exactly.
that's rough, and
Hmm.
that's kind of life altering for her, but we're getting there. Like, that
Yeah.
moment when she,
Hmm.
that the when the third classers were going to take Andre's arm because he wasn't what they fought for, and what's happening now isn't what they fought for, and we're gonna take his arm, and you know she's like, nah, this is barbaric. She's like, I've done it. And I did it because I was following the rules, but maybe the rules weren't the right thing. That's,
Yeah.
that, watching her come to that, all being very stiff and starched, and, all about the rules and order and proper hospitality, it has to be the right stationery and all that. And it just, and then going to, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really taking a minute and taking a step back.
Yeah. And
What did you think?
for me, first of all, when I saw that Alison Wright was going to be on the show, I was so delighted, because I had fell in love with her as an actress when I was watching The Americans. She was in it. She was so phenomenal. And when I heard her speaking in this, I said, "Oh my goodness, wow, she does such a great accent." But then I looked her up. No, that's actually her actual voice. She does a
Yeah,
really good American accent. It was so convincing in The Americans. I did not even realize she was an American actress.
yeah.
And so I love her as an actress. She's amazing. I think she really just took control of this character, because in the beginning, she was just so gullible and so gun
Hmm.
ho, almost a cult level gun
Yeah,
ho
she
to
was a company
Wilford.
girl.
Company girl in a really kind of a cult way. Like, I know he gave you this opportunity, but you earned this opportunity also. So
Yeah,
let's not make him out to be a god. He's just a person. And
yeah.
to see her grow from that,
Hmm.
and to see her turn her back at him when she saw the truth, and she was able to see that truth, and she was
Yeah.
able to slowly develop that character into the leader that she is today, which I
Hmm.
think is phenomenal. I thought that her being the leader of New Eden was absolutely the best thing. Like, you would think they were going to
Yeah.
take Melanie, um but they didn't.
No,
Melanie
because
wasn't
Mel.
even in the picture. But
Yeah.
I don't think she would have been a good leader either way. I think
No,
Ruth
because she lied to
was the
everybody.
right. Yeah,
I
exactly. The
think
trust
that
was gone.
and even Leighton, his facade slipped too. But I think that with Ruth, that she was always for the train, always for
Yeah,
the train, and for the
and the
good of the
people
people
on
and the
the
good of the
tour.
train.
Yeah,
Yeah, and when I say
absolutely,
for the good of the train, that means for the people. That's not the metal in the
absolutely.
machine. it's for the
Mhm.
people. And that's, when they say one
Mhm.
train, you know, um,
Yeah,
like how,
yeah, and
it
I
started
think
out with
she
one
really
tail.
did care
She,
about
she
kids.
does.
Yeah, I really think
Yeah.
she wants people to survive this. I think she always wanted people to survive this, but I think she wants a different way of survival now. Now it's not
Yeah.
about the status quo of the train, but
Right.
about surviving and everyone surviving. And I think that she
Yeah.
creates the balance that New Eden needs. So I
Hmm.
absolutely love that she has developed her character and it has grown and it has become something where she is a leader. And I think that these last few episodes, where, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen them, catch up, people. We've got like two or
Yeah.
three episodes left.
Yep.
But when Leighton's daughter was kidnapped, she was like, I gotta do what's right for New Eden. And she
Yeah.
let the people decide, about him taking Big Alice or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Nope.
but she was not for that. And honestly, I agree with her. I know that he needed to save his daughter, but I think that I could understand her position, and I think I would have taken that same position of no, you can't. Let's try to find a different way because
It's the needs of the many
anything could
outweigh.
happen. Anything could
Yeah.
happen, and these people would have really frozen to death that they nearly did. Um,
Yeah. And
and
it comes back
yeah,
around to the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
it's all about
And
Star Trek at
yep,
all times.
all the time. But it is.
Star
I
Trek
mean,
all the time. Yeah, and absolutely. But the needs of the many outweighing the needs of the few is a real concept that
yep.
really has a real basis, not just in logic, but in compassion. Are you going to be compassionate to 10 people or 1,000 people?
Yeah.
What This is not a conundrum that anyone wants to be in, but it is a reality that
Yeah. Well, it's like
that we're not
when
faced.
Andre had to when they were getting rid of the jackboots, the
Mm-hmm.
soldiers, and the rich people, and and he realized that his friends were chained into that one car, and he couldn't free them, and he had to watch them. He had to separate those cars and watch them.
Yeah,
That was rough, but
rough.
that's
That was rough.
he still made the right decision
Yeah,
because
he did.
you have to get rid of the soldiers because
Mm-hmm. It had to be
is it
done. Absolutely.
yeah, and it's heartbreaking, but it's the same thing again. It's how many
Yeah,
people is it, is it worth those all those soldiers coming to save these 10 people? I
absolutely.
mean, I don't want to make that decision, but yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I wouldn't
okay.
want to be in that position either. And I think that the whole dystopia of it being where there's a frozen tundra kind of thing going on, I
Yeah.
think that is so real. I think that is so um
Like it's
like we
plausible.
could see, yeah, it's possible. We could see dystopian shows about zombies, but the probability of that
Eh,
is
no.
slim to none. And the
Yeah.
probability of us having a climate situation where we can, because the earth has faced it before.
Yes.
That is a fact. That's historical fact. We have
Yeah.
faced a frozen tundra before, frozen ice age. That's what that is before, and we survived it because we were walking on the earth at the time as cave people, but we were
Yep.
here, and we survived it. Humanity will always find a way to
Yeah.
survive, and I think that the way that they develop this is so amazing. We have an old friend coming to visit
Yep.
here. Hello, United Federation of
And the
Planets, how are you
planets.
doing? We've missed you so much, always in the comments being supportive. Totally love you so much. I'm so glad you're able to join us in the comment section today. But let me go back to what I was saying. You see, United Federation, he just takes me away every time. um,
Um, but
but
like a climate crisis
yes,
is the
a climate
potentially like a
crisis
real
can
thing.
happen. Either
Yeah.
either too much heat or too cold. These things could happen, and
Mhm.
with my knee of frozen tundra, I'm not surviving. I ain't leaving nowhere where I'm at. I don't think I can make it. And I like the cold, but that is freezing.
Yeah, that is
Next
really cold.
level cold, you know?
Negative 200 degrees below 0 Celsius is like, oh shit.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
cold.
like, I don't even understand that. That's numbers that don't compute.
That's like you can't well that's like even they show that, and I think that the depiction of it in the show that was done really well, that like a window cracks and you're gonna get frostbite like
Yes.
instantaneously.
I love
Like
the
holy
realism in that show about,
yeah.
yeah, the
Well,
reactions
and then
of,
the science of it too was really
yeah.
yeah.
Now, United Federation has a comment. He says Snowpiercer is a top tier show, and I'm glad they brought it back for its final season. Me too,
Yes.
because there was question whether or not they were going to get that final season, and I hate when they do that. I think that
Yeah.
shows really should be allowed to have a closure. I think that
Yeah.
that's necessary. You know,
Yes.
but let's go on to our next character. I absolutely
Oh,
love
I
her.
loved her.
Karen Conover as Dr. Pelton.
Yep.
Tell me your first impressions with her.
She, when she comes in, she's like, well, I got to do this post mortem, and I'm like, okay, and she's like, well, are you a doctor? Well, I was a veterinarian, but let's see. She's like, but let's see what I can do, and then like she's the doctor, but I mean that would kind of be what it would be like, you get stuck with who you get stuck with, and
Yeah,
I like that she made do with what she had,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
she was and that she paid attention. She didn't just blindly follow, kind of like how Ruth just was put her head down and just followed the rules and did what she said. This woman was paying attention. Like,
Yeah.
she says these medical files all of a sudden they start having these red X's in the corners. Like, what is
Hmm.
this? Oh, we're problem people. And those are Melanie's red X's. And then
Yeah.
pulling it when they pulled all the clinic records when Wilfred took over because, he wants to call the people on the train. And like, what the fuck? He's like,
Yeah.
these are, she even said these are all supposed to be private. And, you know,
Hmm.
and at that point where she said, same thing too. It's like, you got to pick a side. Obviously we're on, before Melanie lost, whatever. But when Melanie was still the bad guy, it's like, we're on her shit list. It's revolution or we're going to get shuffled away somewhere.
Exactly. And
Melanie was putting people in drawers. Yeah, go
my
ahead.
thought was that they were going to take those people and like put them in with the tailies, you know?
Well,
Um,
not even the tailies. I think that what they were going to do is they were going to draw them so
ooh,
that they were out of the way. Because there wasn't just the one car of drawers.
yeah,
They said that there was 4 or 5 cars that had drawers in them that they could store people. Yeah,
that's horrible.
no.
One thing I love about her character is
Hmm.
that she really knew how to play the game. She knew how to behave when people of of importance and had command came to her, and she also knew how to deal with the tailies quite well,
Right.
and she didn't care take in it,
Yeah.
it's funny that she's like, hey, I'm a veterinarian, but you know what,
Yeah.
necessity is the mother of invention, and if you have a skill set, you'll find a way of transferring that skill set over when
Yes.
necessity happens. Okay. And I can totally understand and relate to that, because for years I did case management, but that required me to do physical home visits to people
Yeah.
and taking the trains and buses, here in New York City. And because of my knee issues that I'm trying to deal with, that is not something I can physically do anymore. And I had to take the skills that I had and figure out what can I do now to work
Yeah.
and support myself, because I cannot look for work in this field anymore. And it was very, very sad and painful because I went to school for this. So it was really something that was an emotional situation for me. But I did what I
Mhm.
needed to do. And I said, okay, what is it that I know that I can do that can translate and get me, something that I can work from home full time and have a real actual, job and support
Yeah.
myself. And I think that she kind of had to do that. She no longer could
Yeah.
be a veterinarian,
I
but
mean,
the
there's no
world
animal.
was dying.
other than the ag sec animals, like the agricultural animals, there
Yeah,
weren't really any animals. There weren't any
exactly.
pets on the
Yeah.
train,
So
anything
she
like
wasn't
that.
going to be necessary as a vet, but she made
Yeah,
herself necessary as a
as a
doctor
medic.
and
Yeah, a
said, you
medic.
know
Yeah.
what? I'm going to translate my skill set and I'm going to say, this is what I can bring to the table. And I
Hmm.
think that I trusted her medical opinion far more than that other creepy lady that the other train had.
Oh, the headwoods. Yeah.
Oh,
Ooh,
yes.
they're
Ooh,
fucking
right?
nuts too.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's crazy guy, you know.
Yeah.
But I thought that her story, I understood it so well. You know, she
Hmm.
made herself useful. She made herself survive in a situation where survival was at a premium. You know,
Yeah.
and it really was about, well, what can you bring? You know, and I think that when you're dealing with a dystopian future,
I mean, at some
you
point, that's
really
always
want
going to
people
happen.
who, yeah, you want
Yeah.
people who can bring something to the table. Are you a vet? Are you you know, a doctor? We saw that
Yeah.
in The Walking Dead in the very first
Yeah.
season when Carl gets shot. They're like, have you performed this surgery before? You know, and he's like, yes, on I think he said on a cow, and they look
Yeah.
at him like, what? Yeah, I'm a vet, but they don't have a choice. Their son is dying.
Yeah.
He's got to have the surgery. Doesn't matter
Yep.
who's doing it, somebody's got to do it. And I think that we it shows humanity's willingness to survive.
And
And I
adapt.
love
Yes.
that. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I love the comment here that he do the 9
Yeah.
saying there is enough draws to house at least 400 people. Oh wow.
Yeah. So Melanie was just disappearing people all over the place.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing. They must have installed that and built it as part of the plan.
Yeah, that was the
What
original part of the
mind
plan.
thinks like that? What mind thinks
Oh,
like that?
well, I think that that was probably my thoughts were that Wilfred made those in case not as a population control, but like as a stopover, like I know Melanie used him as punishment and stuff, but like more as a way to preserve food sources and stuff like that, because then if you can draw people and keep
Yeah.
them sedated, basically, and it's like a form of cryo sleep without the cryo because the cold's outside, but like a sedation,
Yeah.
and keep and
I
just
think, yeah,
put them away,
I think
um,
because
then they're
I think
not doing all that.
because I
Yeah, go
think
ahead.
Wilford is just disturbed. I think that he knew that there could be trouble on these trains. And you can't exactly build a prison to hold people in on a train. That would not be
Right.
a very feasible or possible architectural situation, right? You would need even more manpower in security and things like that, and certain things that you really can't have on a train. And I
Hmm.
think uh, that those things were there for the sole purpose of, oh, you commit a crime, we're going to freeze you until
Yeah.
this is your punishment, so to
Yeah.
speak. And I really think that his disturbed mind went there because you had to
um
think about those things when you were
UFP's got
creating and
a
building.
question for us.
Ah, yes, he sure does. Yeah, because they were, yeah, he's asking the purpose of the drawers, if we knew.
Yeah,
I don't think that they ever really say clearly the purpose, but
it
I
might
think
be in
that
the
there's
comics though,
speculation.
or
In the comic, they
yeah.
might be, but we can
Yeah.
speculate a lot
Yeah.
based on the characters that were in charge of these things, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like, when they first asked, what the hell are the drawers for? Are they human experimentation? I don't think that they were on
I don't think so
Snowpiercer
either. I don't
because
think so.
because the crazy doctors were on the other train. But I think that
Exactly.
maybe that was originally what they were for,
Mhm. But
because
here's
he
the thing.
ended. Yeah.
Here's the question I would like to ask. Why were the crazy doctors on the train that Wilford was on?
Well, because he executed all her doctors. Because she had her doctors there
I think
and
he
her
wanted
scientists that
control
she
of
needed.
the experiments. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's crazy. I mean,
He's cray cray next level. But let's go to this next
next,
character.
yeah,
I absolutely love Lena Hall as Miss Audrey.
yeah.
Tell me about your thoughts when you first saw her versus who she is now in present day episodes for you.
Um, I thought she was, for lack of a better term, she's the broken bird. The bird with the broken wing. 'Cause she's a dancer, but then she's a singer and she's an entertainer, and she makes everybody else happy. But like, she helps everybody else heal, but who heals her?
Yes.
That's
And she does play the character so well. You are
yes, she does.
absolutely
And
correct
then
on that.
it really bothered me how easily she slipped back into who she was, the cruelness of that she was with Wilfred.
Yeah.
And I also know that sometimes, I see that as he's very, he's nuts. But he also has that very, the dominant nature, and that he is very controlling of her, and like in everything he does, the train doesn't move
Yeah.
without my say so. I'm the engineer, I'm the conductor, and same kind of, like, he's used to control, and I just kind of, but
I think that for her,
it was the
she
power struggle
it was
dynamic
a
that,
power trip. Like he could control this beautiful woman, and
yeah,
um, he knew how to manipulate her to do things that she probably wouldn't normally do, and he
yeah,
probably used that in order to get her on the train. And she probably felt like, well, this is all that I could contribute. I have to do it because he's saving me. And there's that
right.
Stockholm
Well, and then
PTSD
she,
mentality.
yeah, and she was free for what, 7 years
Yeah, before he
before
comes
a Big
in.
Alice caught up. Yeah, and it was just like,
Exactly. And
yeah,
that was the issue where when he shows up, everything that she had blocked away that he had done to her now surfaces. And
yeah,
he could come in and just go, oh well, we're gonna start pick up right where we left off. And in a way he was right because he was able to manipulate her. And that was
yeah,
very sad that he could
yes,
manipulate her.
that
And
fast too.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. It was very, very sad. I think that she has such
yeah.
a
I think
tragic
she
life.
had kind of like that Stockholm syndrome,
Yeah.
because I mean, like, her story was that she was
Hmm.
she was already a high end escort, and
Yes.
well, and she was working parties, and they were all on his trains, and then when he found her, and when he discovered her or whatever, then she was his exclusively for years, and this is all before the freeze. And
Yeah. He was
I
already
mean,
manipulating her,
yeah,
and the reality is you don't get to that lifestyle. You don't choose that lifestyle because things are hunky dory and perfect.
yeah,
Something is
no,
going on that makes you feel that this is the only way that you can survive and make money.
yeah,
And he was very powerful, and she was probably a little afraid of him.
yeah,
He gives me kind of that whole I'm gonna do gross nasty things to you and you have to accept it. And she was
yeah.
terrified of him. She was literally terrified of him. And I felt really bad for this character. I felt really bad. And I felt,
I did. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I felt like when she was injured, she no longer was able to have the one thing she felt she had, which was her beauty. But I
Yeah.
think that who she is really does shine through because
Mhm.
I think that she's such a beautiful character, you
Well,
know?
and I think what I was to say is, I think that I liked, it was very beautiful what she did with the night car. And well, they still had their
Yes.
pleasure rooms and stuff. What she did is she made it an experience where you could go and you could grieve, and you could, and she'd help you, and it was almost through a hypnosis process of
Very
taking you back to,
therapeutic.
yes, very therapeutic, and
Mhm.
taking you back to where you needed to be, and so that you could grieve, because so everybody on this train is grieving, because we've all lost someone. We lost our lives, we lost the world, you know, honestly. And
And
then we're
not
trapped
every
on this
family
train.
member, not every
Yeah,
family member you could bring with you. So
right.
everyone lost a certain amount of friends and family that couldn't
Yep.
afford, because the people that weren't in the tail end were people who were able to afford to get on. The people in the
Yeah.
tail end were people who snuck on to survive,
Mhm.
fought their way in, to survive. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of people lost people because they just couldn't get afford to get them in there. And if you
Yeah.
notice, there's a lot of high society people in there,
Yeah. And well,
in the
it's like
beginning.
and even when you look at it, it's like, okay, so it's 1,001 cars long when you start, and you got to think that each of those, those rich people have cabins, and they look like, they're bigger than my apartment.
Oh,
Those big cabs,
absolutely.
two levels, and there's bedrooms upstairs, and they have a pool table, and they have all this. It's like, this is they're it's the end of the world, but they're still living in high society, and and we're in
Yes.
first class, and I mean, that's how that is how I mean, that's how classism is real. But
The
it's
class,
just like,
and you see this in the train, the classism,
right,
most
right, and it's like,
definitely.
that's first class is the richy rich. Second class is like the hospitality and the working people, but
The
not,
educated but not rich.
yeah, educated but not rich, but and like the everyday, the the cops and stuff. But like third class was all the rest of the crew that needed to run the train. The engineers
Exactly.
were second class and the hospitality was
Hmm.
second class. But like,
But it was a
and I
depiction of
didn't,
the world that we were coming from, for
yeah,
sure.
and it
I
is
wanted
because
to
it's like,
read,
go ahead.
yeah, I wanted to quickly read Shasara Brooks' comment. Snowpiercer is such a cool show. Definitely need to rewatch. Oh, absolutely. The season is actually about to end. The show itself is about to end. I think there's
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 episodes left, and it really is closing in very nicely. For those of you who
right.
did not know, but yeah, the classism on the train is so real to our real actual world. Again, I say this all the time. That is what sci-fi does. Sci-fi brings real issues into a
Yeah.
scientific
Well,
kind
and
of way.
like UFP said, that even first class had a bowling alley. Like, they could have ripped the bowling alley out and
And put all
made
of the people in the
tailies in there.
tailies.
Yeah,
There had
and
to be
made,
jobs that they could have given them, that they could have earned their keep, so to speak.
right, instead of just keeping them
Yeah.
locked up in the end and
Hmm.
feeding them scraps. It's like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
You
go
can't,
on to, yeah,
go ahead.
definitely.
I was just say, you
No,
can't treat people like shit and then expect them not to be
not to
mad.
react. Yeah,
Yeah, and not
absolutely.
rebel.
Hmm. Let's move on to our
Go
next
ahead.
character. I love
She's my
her,
favorite.
Mickey Sumner as
As
Best
Best
Till.
Till.
She is so phenomenal.
I love her so much.
Talk to me about how much you love her and why.
Oh, she's so conflicted at first, being the trained police and trying to do a good job, and not, she feels for the tailies and doesn't want to beat down on the tailies, and she really is like, I don't like doing this. And then,
Yeah.
as she evolves, and even with her, she got upgraded, and then her partner was giving her grief, for being upgraded, and then, she made a choice, and she did what she felt was right. And I like that
Yeah.
she didn't just keep following, like how Ruth just kept following the rules no matter what. Like, Bess made
Yeah.
a choice
I
and
think
went with
that
her gut.
I think like
Go ahead.
Ruth, I think like
Hmm.
Ruth, her character developed because she
Yes.
started out very rigid, very let's follow the law of the train
Yeah.
and the rules, um, you know, and then realizing, whoa, this whole thing was a facade. There are things happening here that we are not being told. There's stuff going on that's hurting people, and I'm here to protect
Yep.
people. And she just developed her character. And the fact that this last season, she is having this romance with Audrey, I absolutely think that's beautiful. I think that
Hmm.
they both needed each other. they both need one another, because I think that Bess brings the gentleness that Audrey needs in her life. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that relationship was beautifully done. And I just absolutely love how Mickey Subner just has developed this character. It's absolutely lovely, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like that. I really like that this show is very inclusive, and it doesn't make a big deal about, sexuality or anything like
Yes.
that. It's like,
They
okay,
never made it an
whatever.
issue. Oh, okay, you're with her. Cool.
Okay,
And
yeah,
this is a comment that I definitely think is absolutely on point when it
yes,
comes to Till. She followed the law, not Wilford.
yeah,
I absolutely agree with United Federation of Planets on this
yep,
comment. She did follow the law. And she
yes,
couldn't follow Wilford because she followed the law. And
right.
he
And
was a
that's see,
contradiction of the very laws that were in place.
well, and I think that she could see that he wasn't following his laws. He was doing whatever he says, do as I say, not
Like
as I
so
do.
many rich people, they think they
Yeah,
are above the very rules they
yeah.
create.
Well, like, and he actually, when she, because I watched this, I mean, I just recently watched it. That when she's trying to defend herself to him, she's like, "Well, why do I need you? Train detective. There's no crime on my train. Well, there's no crime. There's not going to be any crime on your train. Why the fuck should you make the drawers? You know,
Exactly.
you need a detective because even it doesn't matter. Well, oh, if we didn't have the tailies, then we wouldn't have any crime. No, dude,
But the
there was a
crimes were
fucking
being committed.
psycho. There was a
Yes.
fucking psycho.
And most of the
Cutting
crime
off
was not
this.
committed by the tailies. That's the thing.
No,
Yes,
most of it
exactly.
was first class. I mean, Jesus,
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
they all think they're above the law and they can do whatever the fuck they want. And
Exactly. Let's go on to our
go
next
ahead.
character. I absolutely think
Mm-hmm.
she's a cutie. Roman Blanchard
Yes.
as Alexandra Cavill. She
Yeah.
came in really, really strong. And to be
Yes.
honest, I was not a fan. I was like, oh, she's gonna reunite with her mom, and then she was like so Wilford that I was like,
Yeah.
ooh. And I had a hard time with her character arc because I was like, I still don't trust her. I still don't trust her. Even now, I feel like there's too much of Wilford in her for her to
Well,
be
and that's
trust completely. What do
well,
you
and I
think?
think part of that too is that because she was with him for such a long time, and he molded her and shaped her and made her, you know, I think that her mom went through kind of the same thing because Wolf was like, I pulled you up out of that farm, blah blah blah, fixing a tractor, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
I think that he did it on purpose because he knew he was going to catch up with Melanie because Melanie left without him.
Absolutely.
And it's just
Absolutely.
like, well, let me go. What can I do to hurt her like she hurt me? Because she took my train, so let me take her kid and make her mine,
Yeah.
and make
And
her
that's exactly what
even if
he
they
did.
and
Hmm.
even if they reunite, everything that comes out of her mouth is still going to be me, and
Yeah.
that's the impression that I got, and I still
Yeah.
want
Because he's a
I want her to.
narcissist. He's a
Hmm.
narcissist, and he is, all about taking control of people to manipulate them to do what he wants.
Hmm.
But let's go on to the next character. We do focus on female characters, but we've got a couple of males that are honorable mentions that we're going to talk
Yeah,
about tonight because we can't talk about the show and not talk about these characters. The yummy, the
yeah,
delicious David Diggs as
yeah,
Andre Layton. How can you not think he's yummy? Even
yeah.
as a
Oh
dirty
yeah,
tailie without taking a bath was yummy.
yeah.
Talk to me about his character, Andre Layton, and the
Um.
development that he's made.
Well, I was so when I started watching it, I was a little confused. I'm like, and I realized that this is a take on Chris Evans's character. Um,
Yes.
but I like that they didn't make it the same character. That
Mhm.
it's the same basic story, but they created a new character. So that this is the way it's going, and that he's gonna fight for the tail, and then he tries so hard to keep what's best for the people and keep it democratic and keep it everybody has a say, and like he says, like he tells Wilford once, it's like he's like, well, what are you even doing in the engine? You're not an engineer. Well,
Yeah.
civilian oversight, because this is the way it needs to be, because somebody's got to be watching. You can't just always be sneaking and doing shitty shit.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta.
I love his character too.
Yeah, I
I
love
think that
it.
when he was a tailie, he didn't just look out for the benefit of the tailies and do for the
Yeah,
tailies. That was his priority. But I think that he also wanted the best for the train. I think that he
right.
genuinely wanted to incorporate the tailies and really incorporate the whole community as
Because
equal.
they had, I mean, they had all sorts of stuff that they could have done, like the bowling alley. They could have ripped out the bowling alley and made apartments or a cabin or even a
Yes.
dorm, a healthy sanitary dorm for the Tailies to live in and work, and they would have worked. You could have incorporated them into all the other stuff. I mean, they
Maintenance,
were.
anything. They
I
could
mean,
have
because
done
as
just about anything. Hmm.
because it was already happened. They were already pulling apprentices from the tailies to take on other jobs when people died off. They were pulling apprentices, like, okay, well, we got this pool of just junk people. Let's pull some apprentices, and let's that's what they call it. But just let's go grab some people and throw them in the jobs.
Because I
And
found it really interesting, and I'm sure that you did too, that the
yeah,
people who were in first class that were rich, they didn't pick up a piece of paper. They did nothing all day.
right,
And
just do
also,
whatever,
so I'm sure that there were
drink and
jobs.
party and have a good
Yeah,
time. Like, they should have had
exactly.
jobs too. I
Mm,
mean, if we're in a dystopian future, everybody, just because you bought your
contributes.
way in
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you get to sit around and enjoy the spoils of everybody else. I mean, yes, it worked
Absolutely
for a
agree.
while, but like, honestly, everybody should contribute. If you didn't help, some way to create the meal, farm the meal, whatever, feed the animals, whatever, then you shouldn't be eating. You know, I,
Absolutely
I,
agree. Absolutely
yeah,
agree.
and I think he
Um,
did. He always believed what was
yeah.
best for the train, and I think you're right. Incorporating everybody into the train was what was best,
And
but
he had
he
those
was,
ideas. He said, we can use this space, we can use it, and they just
yeah,
didn't want to include them.
yeah,
That was the bottom line. And like real life, they wanted to ignore the needs of those less fortunate. Then we have this guy who Mike O'Malley as San
I
Roche.
like him.
Loved him from the moment he
Yeah,
was first seen. I absolutely love his character, his relationship to his wife, his daughter. I think that
yeah,
he embodied what middle class on that ship was about. Middle class,
yeah.
working class was about. What did you think about him?
Well, it's like, and he even said it. He's like, "Well, I'm a cop now." He's like, "Well, what did you do before?" Well, I was a security. So, and that's basically what he's doing, train security.
Yeah, and
Just
he's still doing it in New Eden, which I love.
yeah.
That he's still in charge of security and policing people,
Well,
and I
because he
love
did a
the
good
fact.
job, and he wasn't corrupt. I mean, obviously, that's
Yeah,
why that's why Wilford drored him, because he couldn't control him.
yeah,
He couldn't trust
exactly,
that he would fall on the right side of Wilford's ways, because
exactly.
he thinks for himself,
Hmm.
and the police should be independent. They should be independent from
Absolutely.
being controlled by somebody else. They should function normally.
And
But anyway,
talking about Wilfred,
ugh.
Sean Bean as Mr.
Yep.
Wilfred. Winter is coming. Can I tell you? When
Yes.
I saw him, I said, "Why do I recognize this man when he first
Oh,
comes
good
on?"
Lord.
And I'm like, I drew a blank. So I, Google the cast, and I said, I knew it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, because I just find it funny that he came from a really cold place in, Game of Thrones to another cold
Yeah.
place, and he's
Oh
playing a
yeah.
completely different type of character. In Game of Thrones, he was
Yeah.
beloved, he was fair, he was caring, he was just.
I
Um,
know he's a fucking
and
psycho.
he's a lunatic who's a narcissist who
Oh
can't
yeah,
be trusted to throw out garbage. Okay, so
right.
I mean, he is truly a fantastic actor. I think that he has done an amazing job with his character. Um,
Hmm.
but if this character, Mr. Wolfer, doesn't die at the end of this series, I'm not going to be happy. What do you think? I want him dead. He should go. He needs to go. Somebody
Well,
set him free.
that's kind of a joke that Sean Bean's character usually dies in the first season, but he wasn't even in the first season,
I
so we
was,
didn't get to axe yet. I'm waiting for him to fucking die. I just want him to.
yes,
I do not care
yes.
for it. I mean, I love the actor, but I do not care for this character. He's so selfish and narcissistic and crazy and cruel, and it's just I don't like it.
Yep. So
Um,
Sarah Brooks says, I love that actor. He's so good. He is.
yeah,
He is
he is.
phenomenal. He
And
let me
he's in
tell
a
you,
lot of sci-fi, fantasy, and stuff like that.
yes. And he does an
Um,
amazing job. I think that his
he
character
does.
as Wilfred saw himself as someone who was super rich, probably a
Yup.
billionaire. He saw where climate was going. He foresaw this. He had the right people working for him. And he said,
Yep.
let's start building a way to survive.
Yeah,
But he
but
needed
wait,
money.
we're
He
gonna sell
needed funding.
tickets.
Well, he
Yeah,
needed money and funding to build
yeah.
what he did. He built two,
Yes. Oh,
frames
here,
that were
UFP's got
huge.
it.
Yes,
UFP's
he
got it.
had a god
Yes.
complex. He
Yeah.
absolutely did. But here's the thing: I think the show needs a character like him because I think it
Right.
shows you the thing about science fiction. As much sci-fi, situations. There's sci-fi fact, and then there's real fact.
Yeah.
And I think that in this show, as much information as, that is actually fact, one of the things that I think is fact is that there are narcissistic billionaires out there that will throw people into the dust and ignore them because they don't meet the status quo, because they don't have the money to survive. And I think that I
Yeah.
could see someone actually doing what he did. And
Yeah.
this is something that is so true to society today, because those trains are a depiction of our social standings and our
Yes.
socioeconomic situation, of richer getting more and getting more breaks and having more money, and the poor people pouring it
And just
again,
getting poorer and
by
living in
getting
worse and worse
poor.
conditions. Yeah.
And this guy plays that part to the T.
Yes.
I mean, what an amazing actor he is,
Yes.
absolutely. We're going to get ready now to go into our next segment, and that is the female science. Take it away, Sarah.
Okay, this week I have Eunice Foote, Newton Foote, who lived from 1819 to 1888. She was an American scientist, inventor, and women's rights campaigner. She was the first scientist to confirm that certain gases warm when exposed to sunlight, and that therefore rising carbon dioxide (CO2) levels could increase atmospheric temperature and affect climate, a phenomenon now referred to as greenhouse gas effect. Born in Connecticut, Foote was raised in New York at the center of social and political movements of her day, such as the abolition of slavery, anti-alcohol activism, and women's rights. She attended the Troy Female Seminary and the Rensselaer School from ages 17 to 19, gaining a broad education in scientific theory and practice. In 1856, decades before the term greenhouse gas was coined, Eunice demonstrated the greenhouse effect in her home laboratory. She placed a glass cylinder full of carbon dioxide in sunlight and found that it heated up much more quickly than a cylinder of ordinary air. Her conclusion: more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere results in a warmer planet. Her work was presented on August 23rd, 1856, at the annual meeting of the American Association for Advancement of Science, AAAS. Not by her, but by a male colleague, the eminent Joseph Henry. Neither Foote's paper nor Henry's presentation of it were included in the conference proceedings, however. They didn't give her any credit. A short page-and-a-half paper was published in the American Journal of Science and Arts in November of 1956, and a summary of her work was published in 1857 novel of an annual scientific discovery by David Wells. Reporting on the annual meeting, Wells wrote, Professor Henry then read a paper by Miss Foote, prefacing it with a few words to the effect that science was of no country and of no sex. The sphere of women embraces not only the beautiful and the useful, but the true. Foote died in 1888, and for almost 100 years, her contributions were unknown, before being rediscovered by women academics in the 20th century. In the 21st century, new interest in Foote arose when it was realized that her work predated discoveries made by John Tyndall, who had been recognized by scientists as the first person to experimentally show the mechanism of the greenhouse effect involving infrared radiation. Detailed examinations of her work by modern scientists has confirmed that 3 years before Tyndall published his paper in 1859, Foote discovered that water vapor and CO2 absorb heat from sunlight. Furthermore, her view that variances in the atmospheric levels of water vapor and CO2 would result in climate change preceded Tyndall's 1861 paper publication by 5 years. Science was one of the domains where women were struggling to be heard, and Foote is among the pioneers whose work paved the way toward acceptance.
Excellent. There's a comment here that definitely fits in to what you're saying.
Yes.
That's just us. As of course, they didn't give her any credit, and that's
Yeah, and
that's
she
what
was
we do. That's why we do
yes,
what we do here
and
in
she was
this show.
shuffled away for 100 years. I mean,
Hmm.
that how sad is that? That she made this
Yeah,
wonderful discovery, and then because a man made the same discovery 5 years later, guess what? He got the credit. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
and
yes,
yeah,
his discovery was good too, but like she made it first, so why doesn't she get the
exactly,
credit? So
exactly.
I gave her the spotlight tonight because she needed it.
Absolutely, and that's why that's why we sci-fi queens do what we do, and to
Hmm.
promote females and female scientists, female
Yes,
sci-fi, and female authors, which is
authors
coming now.
and
I absolutely love that that female redhead in the woods.
yes,
Today we're going to be talking about "A Stranger in the Pod," written by Shasara Brooks, who happens to be in our comment
right
section.
here. Yeah.
Yes, it is a trilogy. It's a series. This is the first book of the series, "The Secrets of the Nebula." Now, I am going to read what I wrote, but then I'm going to add on some more thoughts that I have because
Okay.
not everything fits in the space that I have. Okay, because
Yep.
I absolutely love this book. I absolutely recommend this book, and we need a movie on this book. Okay, people, Amazon Prime, reach out to Shazara Brooks. You need to make this a movie. Okay. This is an incredible space opera. It is so much fun to read. Shazara introduces us to new alien species, adventures, and her characters are characters you grow to love as you read. With a female captain leading her crew through a nebula, they encounter a ship that seems to be adrift. When is This is when the adventure and investigation begins with the captain and her crew. The author creates an amazing character, beautiful representations from amazing female characters who remind me of Captain Janeway, but so much
Hmm.
reminds me of Captain Janeway, as well as others characters on the ship. This is a great first for a book for the series. I think it can easily become a fan favorite. The vivid description and artwork on the cover gives so many cosplay ideas. I can see this book's characters being cosplayed. And let me tell you, as a cosplayer, that is a huge thing to see a character and want to cosplay that character. That's a really big and it's really important. In the adventure that this this author brings you through with this nebula, the ups and downs. They even have a bad admiral, a bad admiral. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they do.
bad role.
Oh yeah, they do. But the characters are so amazing, and I think that this is such a beautifully written book. It's definitely something I would absolutely 100% recommend. I am so excited for the next one when it comes out. I am absolutely going to be reviewing that. I'm absolutely going to keep everyone posted as to when that comes out, because I am going to follow Shazara on her social media and make sure that she knows that Sci-Fi Queens got her back. This is an incredible book. It truly
Hmm.
is. And so proud that it was written by a woman, that the lead is female. I think that she really brings representation for female characters in a really positive way. And I really love the emotions that she allows her captains to have in the storytelling, which is something that sci-fi often lacks when writing female characters in lead roles like captains or admiral. They kind of strip the emotion from that female character, and I think that that's something that is not it's not always translate well. You
Yeah.
need to have feelings, and I think it's okay to have feelings. Shasara has a comment that I definitely want to share with you guys, because I would love to see people cosplay my character. Oh, absolutely. This is
Yes.
something that's going to happen. I can see that. Um, I definitely can foresee that in cosplaying roles. I was able to see, because I follow Shazara, I was able to see the cover of her next book two. It is absolutely beautiful, the artwork as well. But she just tells such a beautiful story, and she does it in a way that is not complicated. I don't like reading a book that is so overly complicated that you don't understand what's happening. And I love how she really can. This book is something that a teenager can read, even a child of your daughter's age, Sarah,
Oh, okay.
like 10 or 11, can absolutely read this book and follow what's happening, because it is
Oh,
so
good.
well done, so easy to read, such a good writing skill. And her goal is totally met. Like, you can tell she's trying to give you that beginning of this series of books, and then beginning of the mystery in the nebula, the mystery of this stranger that they find in a pod, who, by the way, what, 10, 15 years have went by, but it was much more than that. I don't want to give it all away. You need to buy that book, people. You need to read this book. This is absolutely a fantastic book. I absolutely love it. And But we are definitely going to move on to our next segment, which is the podcast recommendation. All right, we're gonna go and recommend. I like to recommend different podcasts so people can, listen to them, and we love being supportive of other podcasts. And Voices in Hyperspace is one of those podcasts that just really is phenomenal. Really talks about science fiction. It's an audio podcast. They do have a YouTube channel, but it's not visual like ours. But if you enjoy listening to a podcast about sci-fi, this is one that you definitely want to listen to. And now this one here is a science fiction podcast that talks about sci-fi books, but it's in Spanish. Um, it's called La Última Fagrua, The Last Forge, and they talk about sci-fi books that have been translated to Spanish, and different books, and they talk about how it, the journey of the book and the growth. It is really actually quite well done, and these guys are super fun to listen to. And of course, I have a new one for you guys. It's called The Gradient. Okay. Now, this one was really interesting to listen to. The Gradient is a digital magazine covering research and trends in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay. On their podcast, they interview various people in the fields of artificial intelligence, from ranging from researchers to practitioners and beyond. They actually are very, very interesting to listen to. They're fun to listen to. They really do a really wonderful job. I absolutely enjoyed it. AI is really something that is right now very big on everyone's mind, and I think they really provide really good, solid information. So if you're interested in learning more about AI, this is definitely the podcast for you to go to. Now, of course, our next episode, want to share that with you guys, is going to be Latinos in Sci-Fi and Space. And that's because between September 15th and November 15th, it is Hispanic Heritage Month. Okay. And we're going to be talking about the different Latino actors and characters in science fiction on September 20th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And the my favorite author in comic books, John from Avena Comics, who writes the comics I've reviewed here, Lucha Forever, he's going to join us. He's going to tell us about his journey. He's going to tell us about representation and how it means to him. We're going to talk about these different characters throughout history, in sci-fi history. And I'm going to also be reviewing a Spanish sci-fi book for you guys. When I bought the book, I bought it because he was a Latino author of science fiction. But I didn't realize that I had bought the book in Spanish. But I read Spanish, so it's okay. I'm going to be reading it, and I'm going to be bringing you that review for Latinos in Sci-Fi and Science. His books are translated also in English, so no worries. But do you have any last thing you want to say before we call it a night?
No, I'm looking forward to the last couple episodes of Snowpiercer.
Oh,
see where it goes and how it ends.
Yes, absolutely. We just have a few more episodes for the series to end. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Shazara, thanks for joining us. It was wonderful seeing you again, United Federation of Planets. And I'm just going to say goodnight.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our new channel so that you can get notified when new videos come up. Thank